may I invite upon Dr. Vasudha Prakash, the founder director of VXL Educational Trust. It's a 20 years old organization dedicated to serving the persons with special needs. So VXL has 13 centers in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra and has impacted the lives of as many as 45,000 people. She holds a doctorate in special education from the Rutgers University, USA, and has worked as an assistant professor at Keene University before returning to India and starting VXL. Dr. Prakash, you bring in experience of two different worlds, the developed and the developing, like the South Asia. So, what are the gaps we need to plug in order to catch up with the West in delivering modern education to our kids in the subcontinent? So, we also want to learn from you how blended education could support the special need of the learners, especially to do with the girls' education. Over to you, Dr. Prakash,
Yes,
since I've already introduced
thank
you.
you for your patience with this hot shot. Okay, so I'll get right to the point that I wanted to make. When the topic was presented, women in education, it kind of made me smile, because when you come to school education, it's all women. You enter a school and you enter a workshop for teachers, and it's all women, and the men are really a minority. So the point I'm going to make today is about the balance of men and women in education. That's what I'm going to talk about. And Ms. Roshi, you had asked me about the East, the West, how you can bring West into educational practices in India. I'll touch upon that as well. So before we do that, I just want to talk about one fundamental, very foundational issue that we have to keep revisiting. Like conferences like these and so many panels and symposiums, we talk about statistics, we talk about content, we talk about methodology, all of that. But do we always come back to putting the child at the center? This is a question I have. We have to coming back to this point that the child, who is this child? What does a child need at every stage of his or her development? This is something we have to keep revisiting over and over again, because a child's developmental need keeps changing. What the child needs at a consciousness level keeps changing. So, and also, what is the goal of education? I think sometimes we have this tunnel effect. The goal of education becomes success, economic stability, and financial stability. And those always become the goals, which are very important goals. But also, when we look around us, I think one important goal we have to always keep in mind is to raise children who will become clear thinking people with balanced emotions and who are responsible in our actions. And one more goal of education, according to me, is to meet the needs of all human beings, whatever, despite their abilities and whatever the spectrum, whichever part of the spectrum they lie in. So then, which brings me to my subject, which is special education. I've been working in the field of special education for about 25 years in the US and back here in India. I came to India 20 years back and set up VXL Educational Trust. Very enthusiastically, I thought I can bring best practices from the West to India and, just like do things that like they did the systems and everything. But I was woken up very quickly to the fact that culturally we are different. Everything, the children are different, parents are different. So I had to really find my feet here in India and resort to indigenous, natural, organic practices. So, the one thing I wanted to do, when we talk about women in education, special education is completely the domain of women. Mothers who want to help their children, who want to bring some, who are desperate, to make a change in their children, to explore every possible thing for their children, they start schools. So you find that most special educators are women, sometimes mothers. Heads of special schools are women. The leadership is women. And yes, while that's really commendable that women take initiatives in this, we find a pressing, urgent need for men to be there. Because children look, when you look at the world, there has to be a balance between men and women. Children look for men role models. They want balanced human beings for men and women. And this is emphasized more in special education as they grow older, pre-adolescence. And we need men also to come into this field, because children need to be taught by men. They need that men's perspective. Even like simple things like, for how many years will mothers bathe children with special needs? How long will they do their activities for daily living? Even for those, to teach those things, you need men. Men are needed to bridge that gap between the world and the schools. So my point that I want to make in this August forum is that yes, women are really, and thought leaders are all men, but when it comes to actually implementing education in the classrooms, whether it's regular education, primary education, and school education, it's predominantly women. So I think I want to pitch for this fact that we need men to enter the education fray as well, because the reason is men enjoy teaching too. They need to be womanized and humanized by getting into education. And I think that one of the reasons that men don't enter is like the economic thing. The teachers are not well paid. Education is not a lucrative profession. We need to address that. Education has to become attractive, because the education is actually the future of the world. And even companies have to allow maybe once a week for men to come into schools, men to come into colleges and teach children, and men to come into special schools and experience this aspect of full heart forces being at the brightest. So I will bring my presentation to this one summarizing point, that yes, women are dominating school education, teaching, heading schools, but we do need a balance of role models, balanced human beings, the form of men and women, to be in this teaching profession together. And I also feel that the gender balance has to be maintained, and all kinds of balance has to be maintained. So thank you so much for this opportunity.